Welcome to the Keeping the Nostalgia Alive show. I am your host, Billy Powell. You're probably watching this on our YouTube channel, or you're listening to this on our audio podcast channel, which is anchor.fm/KTNA. And if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, go to YouTube, type in the Keeping the Nostalgia Alive show, and you'll find us. We have plenty of content over there. And please subscribe so you can get notified of new broadcasts. With me today, I've had Gene Katie on the show. I've had Rick Mount on the show. I've had Kent Benson on the show. You name it, I've had on the show, and they've been great and informative and keeping the nostalgia alive. But this gentleman right here, 30 years ago, we worked together at the Finish Line in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I promise you, this guy is the best guy you can ever meet and know, would give you the shirt off your back, and is also the funniest person I've ever been around. And it was a pleasure to go to work when this guy worked, because all I did was laugh.
We had a lot of fun, Billy.
Man, we did. And his name is Plymouth Pilgrim. And yes, he's a Purdue Boilermaker. I'm an Indiana State Sycamore and a brought up a Rocket. And I was really a huge Hoosier fan at the time when I worked with Mark. And boy, did we go back and forth on Boilermaker and Hoosier basketball.
Yes, we did.
He now is with Tony the Boss Ross on WYMR MAX 98.3 on Fridays. He's going to tell us a little bit more about that. But I want you guys to kind of sit back, relax, and enjoy this, because this is a good guy, funny guy, full of knowledge. I won't ask him to do any Saturday Night Live, the Bears skit type stuff today.
Farley stuff, I'll do it.
Tell us how you got involved with WYMR.
Well, actually, a buddy and I, his name is Joe. We did a radio show, a once-a-week radio show called "As We See It" with Mark and Joe, and it basically is exact. And this was on a competing radio station. It was WTCA out of Plymouth, and we did this for about 7 years. It was once a week, and it was basically what you said. It was as we see it. I mean, we talked Bigfoot, we talked UFOs, we talked anything that made no sense whatsoever, and we gave you facts as we saw it. And then we always stress it's as we see it. So the facts, don't try to look them up. I can't guarantee anything was true that we said, but as we saw it, that's the way it was.
Well, you have the vessel on your sweatshirt there. Tell me about that.
Vessel is our tailgating van that we take to Purdue football games. I paid $250 for a 1988 Ford Econoline van. We put about $1,200 to $1,400 worth of graphics on it, and we drive it down. We drive it 6 times a year just to Purdue football games to tailgate. Now, inside this vessel, Billy, is a full-length couch. We put a toilet inside there, not functional, but we painted it gold. And if we put bottled water in there, because someone doesn't want to drink a beer with me, they got to go to the toilet and get themselves a water. That's the way I look at it. And we've lost many good soldiers through the vessel. We like to, when we go down, and you're familiar with Indiana, of course, but we try to double down in Delphi on the way down. We'll take double shots on the way down, maybe hit a shot in Logansport. So we're pretty well ready for the tailgate before we even get to West Lafayette. So, and since I am the captain, by the way, my nickname for the vessel, we each have nicknames. There's 4 of us that originally did it. Mine is Meat Locker.
And why?
Well, I mean, look at me. Like you said, I would give you the shirt off my back. I could fit 2 people in the shirt off my back, to be honest with you. So
that reminds me of a great story, and I'm going to promise not to share any stories, but there was we both worked together at the Finish Line in Lafayette Square, and I was standing in there one day, and this gentleman came in and said, I'm here to exchange my Air Max. And I said, well, what's wrong with them, sir? And he said, well, the air bubbles popped, and some Twinkie eating mofo said I could exchange them. And I said, some Twinkie eating mofo. And right about that time, you come walking out the back room and you say, well, I'm that Twinkie eater, but I didn't say you can exchange your shoes. And he kind of just turned around and walked away.
Yeah. The next sentence I said, Billy, and I went up to him, I said, listen, buddy, I take offense to what you just said. I am by far a Suzy Q guy. I am the Twinkie thing you got wrong. So, I mean, some of the things we dealt with, Billy, I'm getting a headache already. Look at me here.
We one time had a
word fat in there too. Yeah, I mean, it's like, oh, you're calling me fat? Be original, okay, buddy?
Man, speaking of that, remember Murphy's across the way in our pancake breakfast manager meeting?
Oh my gosh. I think I can recall the day I became diabetic is when I got the big stack and I got a little extra syrup. That's the exact day I became diabetic, Billy.
Mark, you grew up in Plymouth.
Yes.
Tell us about Plymouth basketball, and of course that magical season in 1980. Kind of fell in love with and followed your alma mater.
Yeah, Plymouth is very proud of their basketball program, and it's been right now we're in a rebuilding state, but Plymouth basketball has been pretty elite throughout the years, and especially go back to before we had class basketball in 1982 when Plymouth won the state championship. And that was I was actually in 8th grade in that year. So I wish I would have been in high school, to go through the whole thing. But even being in junior high, that season was unbelievable. The only loss Plymouth had, and of course, Plymouth was led by Scott Skiles, who went on to Michigan State and had a unbelievable career. And then in the NBA still holds the single season assist record with the Orlando Magic. And but Plymouth was the smallest team. I mean, you watch the movie Hoosiers, and you could kind of put Plymouth in that starring role too in that movie, because that's basically what it was. We played Gary Roosevelt in the state championship, which was, I would argue, one of the best state championship games ever played. Double overtime. Plymouth was actually down 2 points with 4 seconds left, and Plymouth was led by a Hall of Fame coach, Jack Edison, of course. And the play that they, you could go on YouTube and put on the Plymouth 1982 state championship game. And then for those who maybe weren't even alive or don't remember it, what a great game to watch. The last 4 seconds, Skiles we have to go full court. The ball gets into Skiles' hands. He hits what now would be a 3-pointer. We didn't have the 3-point line back then to send the game into overtime. And then Plymouth prevailed in double overtime. But it was a great season. Only one loss that whole year, and that was to South Bend LaSalle.
What the game of high school basketball is really deteriorated, and it's a shame.
Yes,
it is a shame.
Yep.
And it's never going to be back the way it is, and we just got to live with it. And it's all about greed, in my opinion. Yours?
Oh, I agree. I class basketball, and I know the thought pattern behind it, give everyone a chance, but I can't tell you how, Plymouth since then has won during the class, has won a state championship. And it just didn't seem as big of a deal as it was back in 1982 when we didn't have class basketball, when everyone was just, the little guy had hey, they had a chance, and you were going against the state's best. Now you're going against schools your size, maybe not necessarily the best in the state. And so I hated to see Indiana. That was one thing about Indiana back in the day that I just absolutely loved, was we didn't have class basketball. It was everyone going against everyone. And I thought that made Indiana a little more special than it is now.
Huge Boilermaker fan. Did you know you were going to go to Purdue once you started college? Was that something that ran in the family?
Yeah. And I cuss my dad every day, because my dad's a veterinarian. He could have gone to Ohio State. Now he goes to Ohio State. Guess what? Hey, national championships. Woo! Final Fours. Let's go. No, he chooses to go to Purdue. I got the bug. I applied to one school only, and that was Purdue. I knew that's where I was going. It didn't matter. Love Purdue. Billy, you know, and you remember from when we worked together, I live and die by Purdue sports, and it's been a slow and painful death recently. A guy and I, another Purdue grad and I, we have a motto that says "We are Purdue." When Virginia, a few years ago, when Carson Edwards last year at Purdue, when Virginia made the miracle at the end to beat Purdue in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four, all Purdue had to do was hit a free throw or get a rebound off of a missed free throw, and Purdue goes to the Final Four, the first one since 1980. And of course, it gets tipped out. Virginia goes, recovers it, a miraculous pass at the buzzer, scores, overtime, Purdue loses. And our motto is "We are Purdue." When Robbie Hummel was there, and all of a sudden, I'll never forget this. I'm at a Minnesota Purdue football game, and we're excited because this is when, you had Juwan Johnson, you had Robbie Hummel, you had Etwan Moore. I mean, they were projected to, and I think the Final Four was actually in Indianapolis that year. Purdue was projected to make the Final Four. During that Minnesota football game, we're all tailgating, having a good time, and all of a sudden the rumor starts going, Robbie Hummel tore his ACL again. We are Purdue. The year before that, when at Minnesota, and see, that's why I hate Minnesota, because everything that bad happens to Purdue, Minnesota's involved. When Robbie tore his ACL the first time, it was at Minnesota. We are Purdue. When Kyle Orton, when we were playing Wisconsin, ranked number 4, getting ready to be ranked number 1 in football, we were playing Wisconsin. We had just beaten Notre Dame, Kyle Orton's senior year. We're beating Wisconsin at the very end. Kyle Orton's going for a first down that would have ended the game. He had it, but then he reaches the ball, reaches it out. It gets stripped. They pick it up, run for a touchdown. We lose. We are Purdue. We are Purdue, Billy.
You need to make T-shirts for that, man.
That's what we're going to. And then on the back, we're going to put Fairleigh Dickinson, North Texas. Peter. I mean, the list is going to go on and to be continued. It's just, we are Purdue, baby.
Speaking of that, we know that Indiana and Purdue, ever since I've been doing my show, I've gained an appreciation for, like I said earlier, I've had Gene Cady on the show. I've had several Boilermakers on the show, and I've gained an appreciation for just the game of basketball. But right. Man, growing up, you were either a Purdue fan or an Indiana fan, and you just hated each other. How did you prepare for that? And why do you think that was so? And is that still today?
Oh, maybe more so today. With social media, I think it's more so today, because let me put it this way, Billy. When I was a freshman at Purdue, and you probably recall the game, IU was playing the Russians in an exhibition game. That's when Bob Knight took his team off the floor. Remember that?
Yes.
Well, I was at my dorm at Purdue, and I was actually rooting for communist Russia to beat them. Now, how much do you have to hate a team to root for communist Russian to beat a team here in the United States? And I was so happy when I saw Bob Knight take them off. Couldn't be happier. There's just this thing between IU and Purdue, and it goes both ways. I have some of my best friends are IU fans, and I just can't talk to them during basketball season. I can't even really look at them, because it's always comes back to the same thing. And as Purdue, we can't say anything. I mean, we could say, oh, we won. Our big thing was before Woodson got there, which, by the way, Archie Miller, please come back and coach IU. Please come back. As a Purdue fan, we want you back in Bloomington, because we won I think it was 6 or 7 years straight. We swept them. And that's what we lived our life by. Purdue fans would post on social media, it's been this amount of days since IU beat Purdue in basketball. And it grew every year and every year. But the IU fan just comes back and says, well, you can sit and stare at our 5 banners if you want. And then you don't know what to say. It's like, whatever. And then you kind of run away as fast as you can, because that's what they have the banners. We don't. But we did win when John, and I say we don't have Mariners, but when John Wooden played there, we were actually considered national champions. And so I try to hang my hat on that still. Oh, don't you remember when John Woodson played for us? We won a national championship. I mean, it was voted by, but so that's what we got, Billy. So
that was just a few years ago. That was just a few years ago, 1932.
Yeah, that wasn't too long ago. Yeah. I don't even know. Yeah, I'm depressed. Thanks, Billy.
You know what's funny was I watched the Fairleigh Dickinson game and Purdue game, and I was rooting for you guys.
Yeah, we are Purdue. You know, the thing about, and again, you start hearing all the different people complaining. Social media just blew up, of course, and Purdue fans, you know, we're saying idiotic things like fire Matt Painter. Come on, give me a break. He's one of the best coaches we've ever had. But he's got the problem with Purdue, in my mind, Billy, is we are one of the only teams in America that play through our 5 position. We play through the center position, which was commonplace back in the 80s, as you know. You know, back in the 80s when you had Olajuwon and some of the great centers, Hoya Paranoia, you went through your 5. Purdue's still doing that. And what, to me, when I saw it, it was pretty simple what Fairleigh Dickinson did. Purdue's going to play that switching man-to-man. And they brought Edey out to the perimeter. They brought who Edey was guarding. They brought him out to the perimeter, and our guards just aren't fast enough to stop their guards from going to the rim. And if Edey's not underneath the basket to protect the rim, they were going for layups. They didn't kill us with 3-pointers. They just killed us with speed, and we didn't have anyone to protect the rim. So something's got to change.
Has Edey made his decision to come back yet, or is that kind of still wavering?
He just declared yesterday that he is going to enter into the NBA draft, but he's keeping his eligibility. He did not get an agent. I would probably, and again, this is just an outsider looking in, I think there's probably a better chance of him coming back than going to the pros, because I mean, he moves well for a 7'4" guy, but he doesn't move NBA fast. And right now, his only offense is with his back to the rim. I think what he's going to find out, you know, he's going through the tryouts to get some feedback from the NBA scouts. I think they're going to probably tell him you need to get a 10 to 12 foot jump shot if you're going to be able to play in the league, because you can't just play at the rim in the NBA. And again, the other thing, Billy, is again, Purdue is one of the only offenses in the country that run through their 5 position. I mean, their whole offense is set up for Edey. That's not going to happen in the NBA. So that's just me really saying a lot of things, hoping he comes back. I'm giving every excuse. And hey, Zach, if you're listening, really, you need one more year.
What is your feeling on the NIL, and do you think that may help with Edey staying?
Oh, I think it'll help, because I mean it's kind of public record what these guys make. I think Edey made over $800,000 last year in the NIL, is what I read. Same with Trace Jackson Davis. I know Trace Jackson Davis made well over $800,000 last year. I'm sure that Purdue has put a package together that will even give him more. But I think the NIL and the transfer portal has absolutely ruined college basketball, I feel.
And expound a little bit more. Do you think that's going to be something we're going to see in the next few years, or 4 or 5 years down the road, that it ruins college basketball? Do you see it happening now? Yeah,
I think there has to be, just like in pro sports, there has to be a salary cap for these guys. I mean, you got to have, there's only a certain amount these guys can make through the NIL. I mean, right now it's basically an open check I don't think the NCAA does a very good job of putting limitations on the NIL and the transfer portal. And I know what people are saying. Oh, coaches can just up and leave. But think if you were an NCAA coach right now and you started recruiting a guy since he was a freshman in high school, maybe even an 8th grader, and you've recruited him hard. He committed and he committed. And all of a sudden at the end, someone comes up with more NIL money, and all your work you put into that one kid, he's gone because a school down south or wherever offered more money in the NIL, and that's where he went. Or a guy comes and you've worked with them and just because he doesn't like the system, he could just up and leave after a year. And so all that work you put into a kid is, I just don't like it. I think when they transfer, I always liked the fact when they used to transfer, you had to sit out a year, you lost a year. And I always liked that, because that, again, it's just too easy. We're making it too easy for guys just to quit, and instead of working through things, just to quit and go where the grass is greener. And I don't like it. So that's one man's opinion.
What is your opinion? I know you're not an IU fan. I know you don't
No.
care. What is your opinion on, and of course, I went to Broad Ripple, and of course, Mike Woodson played for the same coach that I was at high school. How do you feel he's doing at IU?
Oh, I really think Woodson's doing a great job. And I know some of my IU friends aren't overly happy just because they don't see the results as far as the NCAA tourney. Some of them are a little upset because IU at the beginning of the year was projected to win the Big Ten and so forth. Well, hey, they had injuries. They had key injuries on that team. I mean, when they lost Xavier Johnson, that hurt them. And I know it gave their freshman guard, Hood Schifino, a chance to showcase himself, but it took him a little bit to get comfortable in the system. And then he lit Purdue up for 35. But other than that, I think Woodson, the thing I noticed the most with IU is they play really good defense now. I think they look more defensively like a Bob Knight coach team than what Archie Miller had before. And that's why, again, I'm campaigning, bring Archie back, bring him back, give him a second chance.
How do you feel about the NBA game?
I can't even watch it. I mean, I know the playoffs are going on right now, and sometimes when it gets towards the finals, I'll watch it. I can't even watch the NBA because it's isolation basketball. I like watching teams run sets and so forth on offense, and it's all man, what can you do? And hey, I knew when Jaden Ivey was at Purdue, he was an electric player, don't get me wrong, but he just did not fit the Purdue mold. But you knew when you saw Jaden Ivey that he was probably going to be a better pro than he was a college basketball player, because he was excellent at isolation and creating his own shot and doing things on his own. I don't think Jaden would have bought in as much to the, hey, make sure we're feeding it to Zach. The other guys have fed into that pretty well, but Jaden would have wanted his, which I don't blame him. I mean, the guy is ultra talented and had a fantastic rookie year. But I'm just, do you like the NBA now?
I think that I've been offered tickets, and it's just something I don't want to do. I don't enjoy it. It's not a game of five. It's not five members on the team, not to pull something from the movie Hoosiers, but it's me.
Yeah. And that's why, back in the day when you and I worked at Finish Line, I knew that you had the potential when you and I would go down to the arcade and play NBA Jam. Now, the thing that scared me the most about when you and I would go down and play NBA Jam, and hey, anyone who knows your show knows that you're a competitor. You love competition. But when you put on a sweatband and wristbands to go play NBA Jam in an arcade, that's taking it too far, Billy. I draw a line at some point.
We would make phone calls. Hey, man, you want to meet across from Washington Square at the Putt-Putt? They got an NBA Jam, and we'd spend hours there, man.
Yeah.
Boom, shakalaka.
Yeah.
He's on fire.
He's on fire. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, we played that a lot, Billy. And you were You were a guru at it. I got to admit to you, I bow to you. I tried. I even went in a lot of times on my own time and tried to practice, because eventually I wanted to take over. I wanted to take over for the king, but I never did.
Well, that was kind of pre-internet, and I don't know how I found out, but you could, put those secret codes in and get people that wouldn't miss shots. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Are you kidding me? Are you serious? There's codes? I'll be Washington Square right now.
Is that still there, by the way?
Washington Square? I doubt it. I think when I took over one of the stores there, I pretty much ran that mall out of business. Except for the food court. Food court.
Let's move, because you seem like you're kind of like me in a way with some of the teams I choose to follow.
Yeah.
Let's move to one of your other favorites, and I could hear your opinion on the Chicago Bears and where they're headed.
Billy, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid again. After their off season, I am drinking the Kool-Aid. I had given up. When it came to the first week of February, I had to go into the attic, get the VHS recorder out, grab my Super Bowl 20 VHS tape, put it in, Super Bowl shuffle. I was living in the past, baby. I was living in the past because I had no future with the Chicago Bears. What the Bears have done in the offseason, they have me believing again. The draft hasn't even, but their free agency pickups, I'm excited about.
What do you think about the Indianapolis Colts and their path?
See, I'm probably going to get shunned out of the state. I can't stand the Colts. So, I hope they continue the path that they were on last year, to be honest with you. I hate saying that but they're an implant. And now, to me, the Indianapolis Colts will always be an implant. They should be in Baltimore. They packed up, they moved, they brought them to Indianapolis. And I know they've been here and they're part of but I'm just not a Colt fan. I don't follow them. I don't follow what they're doing in the offseason. When people talk about them, I go, la, 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 because I don't want to hear it. So now, are you a Colts fan, Billy?
Well, I was in Indianapolis when they came to town in '84. So, they suckered me in, and, it was, and I hate to say this, I actually want to know your thoughts, but, when the Bears make it to the Super Bowl and they got to play the Colts, what the hell was going through your mind?
Oh my gosh. Well, I knew when Hester ran the opening kickoff back for a touchdown, we were going to lose, because things just don't work out good that way. I knew when he ran it back, and then I really felt bad. Everyone was like, I never was a Grossman fan, never liked Grossman. And I always got this, hey, Grossman got us to the Super Bowl. I said, we got to the Super Bowl in spite of Grossman. Grossman had nothing to do with us going to the Super Bowl. It was all of the defense. It was Urlacher, and that defense is what got us to the Super Bowl. Well, when Grossman threw that interception, which sealed the deal, I knew that my son, Camden, and at that point, what year was that, Billy? What year did the Bears and the Colts play?
2007?
I think that is right. So my son would have been 8 years old. Is that right? No. He would have been 10 years old. And I knew he was my son at that time because he was watching it with me, and he kind of got Bear crazy like I do. Unfortunately he's that way with Purdue too. I handed down all those traits to my son. After I think I yelled out a cuss word, and I feel bad about that. Here he is, he's 10 years old and I'm cussing him, but he's heard it before. And I said, it's over. We're done. We just lost. It's over. He walks out of the room, and I'm thinking, where did Cam go? Go over to the other side, the formal living room area, and he's sitting there crying because the Bears lost. And then at that point, I said, "Oh my gosh, my son's gonna be just like me." It's that Cats in the Cradle song all over again. Like, Purdue loses, and he calls me right away, "Dad, did you watch a game?" I was like, I really can't talk about it. And then with the Bears, after we lost to the Indianapolis Colts, which I would lose to anyone but the Colts. I don't care who I lose to. I don't want to lose to the Indianapolis Colts, just like I don't want to lose Purdue to lose to the Indiana Hoosiers. That's what it comes down to.
What is your path to make it back up to where you're originally from?
With what, Billy?
With work, like, after the finish line, 'cause I think the last time that I saw you, you were running the finish line in Fishers, right?
Yeah, I ran that finish line in Fishers. Then I actually worked as an allocator at the corporate office for a little while. I will never go back into retail ever. And I think you being in retail know that too. I can't even, Billy, I still can't go to a mall. I mean, go to a mall, I get heaves and the dry heaves, and I get hives all over my arms, and I want to start yelling at people as soon as I walk in there. So I can't do that. Now, the radio thing, I actually, when I got done with retail, I actually started working in what my field that I graduated in, and I taught. I taught at the high school for a little while, and then I went and taught for a gentleman owned a group home for like court-ordered kids and so forth. And I was the teacher at the group home for quite a few years. Unfortunately, because of my eating habits, and I got diabetes, and then I got diabetic retinopathy. So my eyesight went to crap. And so I had to kind of do an early retirement from that. That's why now I'm in radio, and I'm actually doing the morning show every day, Monday through Friday, with Tony on MAX 98.3 or 80. Yeah, 98.3, excuse me.
And you can listen to that online, or you can get it through TuneIn, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You could go to the MAX website, and they have a listen live. And so we're on every morning from starting at 7, and sometimes it ends at 9:30, somewhere around there. Today, we were talking about there's going to be a charity wrestling match in Culver, which is up here near Plymouth. And it's kind of, they're trying to get food donations brought in. And so Tony asked me what if I were a wrestler, what my wrestling name would be. And I thought of two. The one was an easy one. It's my nickname for the vessel, and that's Meat Locker. Again, I think that's fitting. But then I thought maybe I should do something a little more romantic, maybe something a little. So I thought maybe like Dr. Love Handles.
Mine would be Billy Bills. Billy and then Bills right after Billy Bills. And you know what? My wife is almost embarrassed when we're watching a documentary or something, and I can spout off Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Steam Dragon, the Honky Tonk Man, King Harley Race. Ooh, yeah. When I can tell her the movies that Hulk Hogan is in, she gets scared and worried.
Billy, you need to go see a therapist.
Oh, I know I do. I actually went to some of those.
Oh my goodness. Well, all I know is I'd probably go with Dr. Love Handles. I would wear he asked me what I'd wear. I would wear a singlet, but I'd have to accessorize with like a cucumber or something like that. Don't act like you're not impressed.
I want to mention somebody that I actually use a lot from what I learned from them. But of course, at the time when, who really kind of enjoys their boss, and that's Dennis Williams. I learned so much from that man that I use on a daily basis. But of course, I probably cursed him in my mind when we'd see him come into the store.
I remember I used to dread knowing he was coming to the store. But then after I left Finish Line, actually, Dennis is a big Hoosier fan, loves the Hoosiers, was a season ticket holder may still be a season ticket holder. I'm not sure. But after I left Finish Line, Dennis and I, every Purdue IU game, if we were playing at Purdue, Dennis would come up to Purdue and tailgate with me. And when Purdue played IU, I would go down to IU and tailgate with him. And it was funny when Dennis and I would get together. I was known for my chili, and Dennis was always known for his wings. And we would actually try to make them so hot and spicy that no one could eat them. We took pleasure in that. And it was almost a competition between Dennis and I, who can make the hottest, spiciest food to take to a tailgate. So I would spend $60 to $70 on a pot of chili that nobody could eat, that I had to end up dumping out because it was too spicy. And I got pleasure from that. A lot of pleasure. But
I love hot stuff. I can eat habaneros, serranos, and it's like an addiction, man. You're like, oh my God, it's too hot, but I've got to shovel more in.
Oh, I can't shovel in. I mean, I double fist. I'm going at it like this. And I mean, I've got sauce all over my face. I'm sweating like I just ran a marathon. It's not pretty to look at, but I agree with you. I love it. I love it. And Dennis, I had a buddy of mine that unfortunately died of cancer. It's been a while back now. And I put on a memorial golf outing to raise money for his daughter for her college fund. And because my friend's name was Craig, when he was in the hospital with cancer and he knew he wasn't getting out of the hospital, he asked me, can you make sure that his daughter Kate can go to college? Is there anything, if you can do anything to help Kate go to college, I'd appreciate it. So I immediately started this golf outing, which was a huge success. We ran it for 10 years, put so much money into her 529 for college. But Dennis was one guy that showed up every year. Dennis came from Bloomington and came up and played every year. And that's the kind of guy Dennis was, and is just very, I'm like you. I used to cuss at him when I worked for him, but I consider him a true friend now. So
every morning I wake up and I shave before I go to work. It's because of that man, because he used to come in and go, why didn't you shave today? Do you not care? I'm like, no, I just didn't want to shave today, man. But now every day I shave and I'm in the mirror shaving and I'm going, Dennis Williams. And then the way you present yourself also, like, don't have your hands in your pockets, don't have your arms crossed over your chest. It shows that you don't care about it, or you don't want to talk to people.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that is so Dennis. He sat out and, I thought we were going to have a real heart-to-heart conversation one time. And he goes, Mark, for breakfast, what would you rather eat? English muffin or a bagel? And I go, and I'm like, okay, I know there's a right answer to this. I don't know what the hell it is. So I go, bagel. He goes, good. Yeah, bagels are actually better for you than English muffins. They're not as fat. They're better for you. I'm like, are we really? Look at me. Do you really think I care? What I do is I eat a bagel and I put an English muffin inside of it. I'm not the person to have that conversation with, Dennis. And then he always told me, he goes, Mark, you know what impresses me with you? Your shoelaces are tied straight up. He goes, most guys I know that have a little bit of a weight problem tie their shoes are tied off to the side because they can't bend down to do it. So they try to prop their leg up and they do it off to the side. And that I always remember that. I'm like, okay, God. Even though when I bend over, I lose consciousness because I can't breathe for about 3 minutes, I still try to tie my shoes so that the knot is up top instead of off to the side.
That was the same thing that he told me. He said, next time Larry Sabloski comes in the store, look at, if he's wearing shoes that are laced up, look at him. He was chubby when he was a kid and he had to tie his shoes that way. And, every time he would come in the store, I'd look down at his shoes and go, man, damn, Dennis knows everything.
Yeah, he really does. It's just, so I, even to this day, I make sure that my knot is on top of my shoe. I don't care if I end up passing out and wake up with my shorts around my ankles. I make sure that I bend over to tie my shoes the right way.
Back to the Pacers real quick and NBA basketball. It is an embarrassment to the state of Indiana for being known for the game of basketball that organization doesn't have an NBA banner hanging up and instead it just has the 3 ABA banners.
I agree. And you look back in the 90s when they had Rick Smits and Reggie Miller and those guys, how close. I mean, and you remember, Billy, you were around Indiana during that time, just the Pacer fever that was going on. I mean, it was just so exciting. Now, I lived in Indianapolis at the time too, and you couldn't get enough of it. It was boom, baby. You know, it was just incredible to watch. And then, but yeah, it's kind of the same for me, Billy, as a Purdue fan, to know since the NCAA tournaments come that we don't have a Final Four banner. Well, we have a Final Four banner from 1980, but we don't have a national championship banner. I kind of feel the same. I look at some of the teams that Purdue has had, some of the talent Purdue has had, and I look at some of the teams since 1980 that have gotten to the Final Four. Well, just look at this year's Final Four. How can Purdue not make it? I mean, are we just that snake bitten? And so I feel that way kind of with the Pacers. You know, how the Pacers have had some talented players and had some great teams. The problem is when the Pacers were great, there were teams that were just a little greater, you know, the New York Knicks. It just, it's eventually, I think it's going to happen, I think, but I'm not sold on what the Pacers are trying to do right now.
You know, what's interesting is when you have someone that you're around all the time, your wife, that how they could bring you down to earth. She's like, why does Indiana have those 5 stars on the back of their shorts? And I said, that's for the 5 national championships. And, you know, and I said it real proud. And she goes, when's the last one you guys won? And I said 1987. She goes, that was almost 40 years ago. That's almost 40 years ago. You guys really aren't, prevalent anymore, are you? And I'm like,
I know. Well, and that's, as a Purdue fan, sometimes we try to throw that back in because since we don't have any, but it really is. It's kind of sad that the state of Indiana hasn't produced more in recent history, that we haven't produced anything. You know, I think Indiana's becoming more relevant in basketball now, but under the Archie Miller days and stuff, Indiana just wasn't even relevant anymore. I mean, they weren't making NCAA tournaments. They weren't, they just haven't been relative. And now I think they're getting back that way with, I think they will be that way with Woodson. I think he's going to bring back, and I hate to say it, but you know, it's good for the game of basketball for Indiana to be good.
How pleased were you to see Gene Katie making the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame?
I couldn't be more excited for him, because here's a guy that did things right. He did things the right way. His teams always played hard. You know, you look back at the Purdue teams that he had, and he had one player in Glenn Robinson that was a legitimate player. I mean, he did. Brad Miller, there were some other guys, but he hung his hat on Glenn Robinson. But he won Big Ten titles and did incredible things with guys like Jim Rowinski, and made Steve Scheffler an All-American. You know, guys that other teams probably wouldn't even look at, and because they outworked players or outworked other teams. But it still comes down to he never made a Final Four, and that's what, as a Purdue fan, you were afraid he wasn't going to make it in because of that in itself. You couldn't keep him out based on his regular season and what he did, and the way he did things. But you always worried about, well, he never made a Final Four. So for him to get in is wonderful. And that, again, at one of our tailgates we had, he's still so prevalent at Purdue. He was out on a golf cart going through the tailgate area where we were at. And of course I had maybe one or two too many adult beverages. So, and I wasn't mean to be disrespectful, but I'm yelling, Gene, get over here. Get your butt over here. And he did. And he came over and shook my hand and put his arm around me. And I got a couple pictures with him. And he probably thought, this idiot. Hey, I got an idea there, Chubby. Put down the beer for a while. But no, he was a gentleman, and it just came up, put his arm around me, let me take pictures with him, and Gene Katie will forever be Purdue basketball, as far as I'm concerned.
At work, when we change subjects, I normally go, oh, look, squirrel. So I'm changing subjects by saying squirrel. Brandon Brantley does an outstanding job with the bigs at Purdue.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Do you think Brandon will eventually, and what will that do to Purdue? And do you think Matt Painter retires as the head coach of the Purdue Boilermakers?
I think it would be a shame if Brantley didn't get an opportunity to be a head coach somewhere. He obviously has done incredible. I mean, you look at the bigs that he has coached. You know, you can go to Haas or to obviously Edie, the guy Matt Harms. You know, you go down the list of some of the bigs that Purdue has had, and the job that he's done. So I would be shocked to see him not get an opportunity. Especially now, you know, look at Zach Edey. Now, a lot of what Zach Edey is Zach Edey. I mean, he's just a good athlete. But the fact of the matter is, he's only been playing basketball for what, 5 or 6 years now. I mean, for 5 or 6 years, and for him to become the National Player of the Year says something. And a lot of that credit has to go to Brandon Brantley. So I wouldn't be surprised. I would be shocked, I should say, if he doesn't leave. And if he does, I just hope the other coaches that have been around know enough to continue, because if you're a big man, if you're a 7-footer or anything like that, and you don't look at Purdue, I question you, because there's no team, like I said, in the country that utilizes the 5 position like Purdue does. They just don't. And it's not just this year, it's been the last 8 years. And as far as Painter goes, I would love to say yes, he's going to retire as Purdue's coach. But, you know, like you and I were talking about, Billy, with the NIL and everything, some of these coaches, I think some of these coaches that are retiring, Jay Wright, I think it has a lot to do with what's going on in college basketball now with the NIL and with the transfer portal. And I feel horrible. Who was the Michigan coach before Juwan Howard?
He was at West Virginia at one point too.
I can't think.
And went to Cleveland Cavaliers to coach in the pros.
Yeah, but I thought he was one of the best coaches in the Big Ten, and he just said it's an unfair playing field. I mean, he basically said college basketball is an unfair playing field. Well, you know, with the NIL and the transfer portal and all these things and the work you put into these kids, and then all of a sudden all that work you put in is gone because they got a better deal. I could see some of these great coaches getting out of the game before they want to retire. I could see, like, me personally, I would think if Matt Painter got offered a front office position in the NBA or something like that, I could see him going. Absolutely. Just because I think he loves it at Purdue and does a wonderful job. But at some point, with the way college basketball is going, to me, it'd be like, I don't know if I want to keep putting up with this stuff. I mean, I'm frustrated with it. And I'm just an armchair fan. I can't imagine what the coaches go through.
And speaking of that, being a fan, and this is just a question I want to answer. What is your cooling off period after Purdue loses? For example, when Indiana loses, I can't think of basketball or watch basketball until we win again.
With Purdue, it's even a little bit worse with me, Billy. When Purdue loses, I can't watch sports in general. I will not turn on ESPN. I will not turn on the Big Ten Network. When we lost to Fairleigh Dickinson, I didn't watch any more tournament games until I believe I watched an Elite Eight game, and then I watched the Final Four, and that's it. I couldn't even watch the second round or anything. I couldn't do it. And in a normal season, when they lose, I can't turn on. I can't even watch the news because I don't even want to hear it in the sports section of the local news. I am pathetic. I'm a loser. My wife says I have issues. I know I do. I yell at the dog when Purdue loses. because I think the dog had something to do with it. I call my one friend, Tony. I call him up, and he and I then we go back and forth. He's kind of my cooling off thing because he's as dumb as I am when it comes to it. And when Purdue loses, basically the world's coming to an end. And we know that. And I need to crawl into my crawl space and prepare for the apocalypse. So it's bad. But I'm glad. I'm in a way, I miss you living in Texas, but I'm glad you don't get to see me on a game day.
The dark side.
Billy, you want to know how bad it is? Can I tell you how bad I am? Purdue away games. When Purdue's away and they're on TV, I DVR it. I can't watch it. So I will turn on a movie like Twister that I know is 2 hours. I'll DVR the Purdue game, and I have to shut my phone off. I don't just turn it on silent. I shut it off. I don't want anything. I don't talk to anybody. I watch the movie. If Purdue starts at 7:15, let's say they start at 7 o'clock. At 9:15, all I've been doing is watching a movie, and I won't change the channel because I don't want to see, maybe CNN's going to come through on a ticker saying Purdue loses. I don't want to see that. So I keep it on the movie, and then 2 hours and 2 hours and 15 minutes after this tip off, I ask my Alexa, Purdue men's basketball score. If we win, then immediately I'm on the phone. I'm calling my dad. I'm calling Tony, and I'm talking and this and that. And then I watch the game. I'll watch it maybe twice. And if they lose, I only call my dad because I'm afraid he might have had a heart attack and died on me. So I call him to make sure he's okay, find out what happened, and then I delete it. I'll never watch it. I cannot watch an away game live. And the only reason I can watch home games is because I go to the home games. So I can just punch the guy in front of me during a home game, but I can't, I have to sit there and watch it. So that's how bad I am.
Do you have season tickets to both football and basketball?
Yes. Yeah. Now with football, I got to be honest with you. I base everything on an entertainment value, Billy, and you've always known that about me. I want to go where I'm most entertained. Well, there's a lot of times through Purdue football. Now, this year being an exception, but prior, especially during the Darrell Hazel years, I never left the tailgate. The tickets just stayed in the vessel. We tailgated because we put a big 55-inch TV in the back of the van, and we have one of those dish to go things so we can watch football games and so forth. So there was probably 4 years in a row I never went into Ross H Stadium and I had season tickets because the entertainment value inside the stadium did not match the entertainment value I had at the vessel. So
do you still play golf?
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, tomorrow, myself and 7 other guys are heading down to Kentucky for a 4-day golf trip. We leave tomorrow. I'm leaving tomorrow morning about 3:30 in the morning. But Billy, let me tell you this. I told you about my eyesight. I got diabetic retinopathy. I can't see. I had to have my big toe, which I used to call Big Daddy. That was my big toe. It was the meanest big toe, at least in the upper Midwest, if not, this side of the Mississippi. I had to have it amputated. I lost it. And if I would have known better, I would have had the doctor put it in a little glass jar with some formaldehyde, and I would have worn it around my neck because that's how much I respected that big toe. But unfortunately, I was out when they cut it off, and I couldn't make that request. So if I did, I would have it on me right now, right here, Big Daddy. So my balance is bad. My eyesight's bad. So about how well I golf these days. That should tell you how I golf, but I still love it. I love going out doing it. And I actually had my eye doctor write me a prescription, and this is a prescription with unlimited refills. I get 5 strokes per side. In other words, 5 strokes per 9 holes. My doctor wrote me this prescription because my doctor's kind of a funny guy and he's a golfer. So whenever I go on the course, I say, listen, this is doctor's orders. I'm starting off on the very first tee. I'm 5 under to begin. I mean, I'm already 5 under before we even tee off. So I got that going for me, which is nice. So thank you, Dr. Howe.
What's that?
I said, thank you, Dr. Howe, for that prescription.
There are stories in life that you remember really well because you went through them, but you hope that the people you were with don't remember them. But so let me tell you this story. I think we were at some golf course, I think,
Okay.
and I couldn't get the ball off the first tee. You and whoever we were golfing with got the ball off the first tee. It was great. And there were people behind us, and it's like going to the bathroom in front of somebody. You just can't hit the damn golf ball like you can't pee in front of somebody.
I know.
And I was swinging in that sucker, and I was hoping people were thinking I was taking practice strokes, but I was pulling a muscle every time I swung the club. And I remember you saying to me, "Get in the cart and just throw the ball out about halfway down the fairway." And we're about halfway down the fairway, and I take that golf ball, whoo! And you go, "Oh, look, there's your ball over there. I'll take you over there."
I still use those things today, Billy.
Crazy,
That is
man.
hilarious. I do remember that, and that's why we were talking on the radio show about golf, and he said, "Do you have any superstitions with golf?" I said, "Yeah, I can't have my wallet in my pocket. I can't have my phone in my pocket. I can't wear a baseball cap when I golf because I'm afraid it's going to fly off on my backswing. But I always have, like, if I'm playing, let's say I'm playing a Max Fly ball, Max Fly number 2. I always have 2 Max Fly number 2 balls. I play with the one, and the other one is in my pocket." Because if for some reason I hit into the woods or something like that, and they say, "I think you lost," I said, "I don't know. I thought I saw it hit a branch and come out." Well, that other number 2 gets dropped right there, and I'll got it right here. And then they'll say, "Mark, I saw you hit into the lake. I saw a splash." And I go, that must have been a fish, because right here's my ball. It's right on the bank. I'm playing this one right here. So, yeah, I still got all the tricks, Billy. I got all the tricks.
Having kids is a wonderful thing. Having grandkids is even more wonderful. You have how many?
I have 2 grandkids. My granddaughter Eden and my grandson Emmett.
Double E.
Double E.
And it's a lot different, isn't it, than being a parent, isn't it? Grandparent is. It's wonderful.
There is nothing like being a grandparent. The best.
What do
thing
they call you?
Oh, they call me Grandpa. I call my granddaughter Buckets because I just think she's like buckets of love, buckets of sugar and flour. So I call her Buckets. And my grandson, his name is Emmett James. So my son, who's the king of nicknames, called him Jamestown. And so now his nickname's just Town. So that's how we do things here in the Lindsey house. But the only issue I have, Billy, is my son-in-law, who I love to death, but he's a Notre Dame fan. And he's trying to put that kind of crap on my grandkids. Notre Dame shirts, Notre Dame sweatshirts. And I'm throwing the Purdue stuff at them, and when they come over, we sing the Purdue song. And I've got this little Purdue little train thing where you push a button and it plays the Purdue fight song. I'm trying, but I'm fighting an uphill battle. I am fighting an uphill battle, but I'm not giving up, Billy.
My son-in-law went to Texas Tech.
Okay.
And the things that you don't think people do, when you find out they do them, kind of like we going over to the house, and Indiana had lost their first basketball game this year. But I'm always have a big mouth about Indiana basketball. And he goes, I got a status update on my phone that you guys lost pretty badly. Yeah, we got beat today. And I'm like, son of a biscuit, man.
Yeah.
For 10 minutes, it's like, hell with you. Then after that, it's like, okay, I love you.
Yeah. Zach, and that's what my son-in-law, Zach, like if Purdue loses, he'll go, ooh, he knows well enough, because he knows how fanatical I am. He goes, ooh, Purdue had a tough one, huh? And he'll just leave it at that. I go, Zach, we're not talking about that. Okay, we're not gonna... And so he's pretty good with it. But the Notre Dame thing, I've got to. And I think the reason, Billy, that if you're a Purdue fan, and you know, you lived in Indiana, and as a Purdue fan, when you go to Purdue, you're a Purdue fan. You're a Purdue football fan. You're a Purdue basketball fan. You're a Purdue water polo fan. You're all Purdue. There's a lot of people in the state that are all about IU basketball and all about Notre Dame football. And that's easy. It's easy you know, they like, you know, you ask an IU basketball fan, some of them, how's IU football doing? I don't care. I'm for Notre Dame in football. Or a Notre Dame football fan, how their basketball team is going to be. I don't care. I'm an IU basketball fan because that's easy. Notre Dame has had so much success in football. IU's had so much success in basketball. So that's why, as a Purdue fan, you live and die through all Purdue, you know, and that's why I just don't like Notre Dame football either. So you know, my neighbors are probably, yep, there's a red laser dot on me right now. So.
You know what's funny here in Texas? Yeah, I could go out and ask 10 people now, hey, where's Notre Dame at? And 3 would say California.
Yeah.
2 would be really off the chain and go Paris. And you know, when you tell some of the people in Texas, no, man, because I'm an Indiana homer, the state of Indiana homer, Purdue,
Yeah.
Butler, Ball State, Indiana State, Evansville, whatever. And no, it's in Indiana, but the people that roll out with, you don't know where Notre Dame is. Well, I love it though. Paris. Well, I guess you're right. I guess you're right.
Hey, yeah, you can't argue that. They are right about that. But yeah, it's amazing that I'm in Bremen, Indiana, and literally 20 miles up the road is Notre Dame, the University of Notre Dame. So, which obviously in football, there's not you can compare it to any school. I don't know if there's a school out there that has more tradition than Notre Dame football, which is another reason I don't like them. So there you go.
So I went to the Final Four this year with this gentleman.
Oh, yes, you did.
Yes, Dave Shellhouse. We have grown a nice friendship, and he's kind of you know, taken me off of that where there's love for Purdue basketball, and I know he can't see how you can split that with Indiana basketball, but I'll get that in the mail to you here in the next couple of days.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. That's a Purdue legend right there. Absolutely.
And to have him come and stay at the house is even more, you know, it's like one of those things where you're Cincinnati Red and you go to fantasy camp.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. You guys have a good time at Final Four?
Yeah, we have a great time, but he's definitely, you watch those progressive commercials with Dr. Rick?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I knew it was coming when we went to the semifinals. I knew it was coming, but I just didn't know what time it was coming. But Dr. Rick had a commercial for Progressive where the people were going, so we're going to leave about the beginning of the third quarter. And Dr. Rick says, let's not talk about leaving the game before it starts. So I'm sitting there. We have great seats. We're in club level 312. And I know it's coming. And all of a sudden, UConn and the UConn game starts. And he goes, hey, I got an idea. He said, if we leave at halftime, we can get back to your house with about 10 minutes left and watch the rest of the game at the house.
Oh, my goodness.
and I just look over and go, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah.
You know what? What's funny is we have my dad has a friend up here that and he still does it. Leaves early, always leaves early. He's a Chicago Bear season ticket holder, and he's been a Purdue football and basketball ticket holder for as long as I've been alive. But I always go back to the game. Joe Tiller's first year at Purdue. Purdue was playing Michigan State in football, and the game looked like it was over. I think Purdue was down. They were down 10 points, and Michigan State was ready to kick a field goal with probably, I think there was maybe 3 minutes left, and that's it. And my dad and Bob, his friend, they had left long before that. Well, long story short, Purdue blocks the field goal attempts, runs it back for a touchdown. They're down 3. They get the onside kick. They go down. They score a touchdown with 30 seconds left to take the lead. Michigan State gets down in field goal position and within like 20 seconds, and the guy just duffs the kick, and Purdue wins. And when Purdue won that game, and I stayed, myself and my friend, we stayed and watched the game, and it was just one of the most amazing endings of a football game. I think my dad they were in Logansport when it finally got over, which is about 45 minutes away. And I go, why do you go to football games with him? Are you kidding me? You guys why would you buy tickets to just up and leave all the time? And he does it with every game.
You know what? And that's crazy. It's totally crazy.
Yeah, because they want to beat the traffic. And I'm like,
yeah.
So what the hell are you going to do when you get home? Sit down and watch the highlights? Hell, you don't have to watch the highlights. You can watch the actual thing. Stay in the stadium.
Hey, if you want to aggravate someone who watches basketball with you, do what I do. I actually, for the past 2 years with the Coach Woodson teams, have shot about 89% from the free throw line. And I do that by, before the release, I change the channel. After the release, I change the channel back, and I'm about 84.5% from the line. Try that.
Honestly, I might get shot if I do that.
Mark, what are your comments? I know we're running long here, but what are your thoughts and comments about Coach Knight when he was at Indiana, and then today, of course, he's going through some illness and, from what I understand, some dementia. What are your thoughts on Coach Knight?
I'll never forget. First off, my biggest memory of Coach Knight, and I went to a lot of, when I was a kid, I went to a lot of Purdue IU basketball games with my parents and watch Coach Knight coach against Katie. And my biggest memory was, and this is, now you'd get arrested for this. Knight walks onto the court, and the fans are just going nuts. They're booing him, and he walking towards his bench. He gooses a Purdue female cheerleader, and the crowd just exploded with applause. It was just the funniest thing. I'll never forget that. Now, you do that now, you're going to jail for it. But at the time, I could never, when I was going to Purdue and Knight was coaching and so, I couldn't stand him just because he was Indiana and they were so successful. But now when I look back at Knight and so forth, and what a great coach. Now, did he do things? Did some of the things he did were questionable? I don't think they were as questionable during the time, because I think coaches were allowed to get away with more stuff then than they can now. But you can't argue that he was one of the greatest basketball coaches to ever coach. And I hate seeing him the way he is now. I feel bad for him because obviously, the guy knew more about basketball than anybody. And he was, and that's why I think that with the Purdue and IU rivalry back during the Katie and Knight years were so good, because they both teams played so hard. IU never had the most talented team on the court. As you looked at the players, they were never the most talented. But again, Knight got them to be champions, and even as a Purdue fan, you respect what he did. And now that he's gone out of coaching, I can look back and I watched the 30 for 30 on Bob Knight and stuff like that. And I honestly, I truly respected what he did at IU. And I do, it's sad mentally, and, with what's going on with his disease, it's sad. But he made Indiana basketball. So, and I think not only just for the Indiana Hoosiers, but Indiana in general, he formed Indiana basketball. So hats off to him.
Mark Lindsey, it's been a pleasure. We're going to have to do this again, because I think we just started chipping some of the iceberg. So weekdays on WYMR MAX 98.3. 98.3. What times and where they can catch you?
Best time is 7 to 9 in the morning on the drive into work. You can obviously you could go to their website and just hit listen live. And we, yeah, you never know what's going to come out of my mouth, unfortunately. And I'm just trying to stay one step ahead of the FCC, to be honest with you, at this point in time. So, but no, we have a lot of fun. Tony is great. And I'm really enjoying the gig. We're going to start doing some more remotes and stuff like that. So I'm going to be on a little bit more, but I love what I'm doing. And thank you so much, Billy, for having me on. I can't tell you how good it is to see you and talk to you. When you called me the other day, man, just I took a step back to finish line days, and just some of the memories you and I had, Billy, were unbelievable.
Well, with that being said, there's been a court ruling, and it looks like things are going to get kind of crazy at Lafayette Square, and I'm going to go ahead and pull the gate down, okay?
I'm with you. Let's just go to the arcade. NBA Jam. I got the quarters. You get the headband, baby.
Mark Lindsey, thank you so much once again. And everybody check him out Monday through Friday on WYMR Max 98.3. And also you can listen to it online. Mark Lindsey, thank you so much. Go boiler up, and you have a great day.
Billy.
Thank you.
Nothing but love, baby.
Oh, oops. There we go. I didn't mean to hang up. Hey, I didn't mean to just hang up on you there.